Ollie XL is a UK-based electronic artist who I recently discovered. Don't know much about them individually as an artist, but this project here seemed pretty cool, so I thought I'd talk about it. Rogue Intruder Soul Enhancer is the name of this album here, and if you're looking for some UK bass type stuff, you should definitely be checking this out. There are some really cool dubstep-ish wonky moments on the album, particularly coming in the first couple of tracks, which I think are easily some of the best on the album. On the track Liquid Love, which might be one of the best tracks here, you've got some of that Kai Whiston, Igloo Ghostish type stuff coming through in that kind of cartoonish, weird, sort of squeaky instrumental that you would often find in their kind of music, which is something I am absolutely all for. I think there's a nice little bit of diversity on this album too, with some of the sounds and the styles, and then you've got some of the vocal inclusions on the album which add a completely different flavour to the tracks. These are some of the tracks where the repetition shines through quite a bit though, and that could be something that turns people off, which it almost does with me, if I'm being completely honest. I do think these are some of the weaker moments on this entire thing. You know, the whole "you can be my ringtone" thing on Jet Generation, which is okay to begin with, but then when you realise it takes up most of the track and very little progresses within the song, you do start to get a little bored. Well, at least I do anyway, maybe not for everyone else who's listening to this. But I just wanted the vocals to be utilised in a way that was a bit more interesting, kind of feels a bit generic for this type of music. That kind of high-pitched, chiptune type stuff with the vocals, not really something I'm totally into, although it never gets annoying, it's just used a bit too much to the point where it becomes a bit monotonous. But then the tracks without it, I just think shine through incredibly well. You got the garage beats coming on later in the album, some really fantastic rhythmic grooves coming through. I definitely am digging these tracks way more. I do quite like the ambient tones of a track like Imposter, which I think fits in quite nicely in the album, honestly. Some of these tracks that go for something a bit different feel very much at home here, which is something I do like. But the one track that completely surprised me, honestly, was the track Clumsy, which samples the Beck song Loser, which I did not see coming. It could be the fact that it's a recognisable song that I'm feeling this way, but there was something about this one that felt a bit more polished than some of the other tracks that utilise vocals. I'm not entirely sure what it is, but it didn't get quite as patience testing with the repetition on this one than some of the other tracks. There's also the artist Echo 2K, which I believe is involved in the Drain Gang, thing that's going on at the moment, which you guys know at this point I'm not too big on. Many of the artists that are involved in that actually I'm not big on. However, I will say I thought this track again was one of the better tracks that utilise the vocals. So there is some potential there, but it's just not always hitting with me in ways that I want it to. Generally though, there are lots of great things about this album, but I just don't think it's quite as consistent as it could have been throughout the whole thing in terms of some of the tracks not quite hitting in the ways that the better tracks did. I'll be definitely checking for this artist in the future, a definite nice addition to the UK-based electronic scene. You should be checking this out because I think you'll get something out of it as well. 6 out of 10 from me. If you have heard it though, do let me know in the comments what you think of it. It did come out in July, I believe, so of course there's been quite a few months since its release, so some of you may already know about this. Hopefully you get something out of it, a recommendation at least. Thank you for watching my review. Hope you have a good day. Goodbye.